Hello and welcome back to Whofiles. Thank you for listening again, maybe on your way to work, maybe on your way home. Today we have a new episode. Today's topic is fast reading techniques for exams. In our last two episodes, we talked about speaking fluently and about important vocabulary. Today, we will focus on reading. Many students feel nervous about reading tests because there is often a text and not much time. Today, I will give you 7 simple techniques to read faster and understand better. Are you ready? Let's start. Part 1. Why reading technique matters. First, let's understand why reading technique is so important. In many exams, you have a text and you have a limited time. Maybe you have 10 minutes to read a text and answer 5 questions. Many students make a common mistake. They try to read every single word very slowly and understand everything perfectly. This method takes too much time. By the time they finish reading, there is no time left to answer the questions carefully. Good readers do something different. They do not read every word the same way. They use different techniques depending on the goal. Sometimes you need a general idea. Sometimes you need one specific detail. Sometimes you need to understand a difficult sentence completely. Today, I will teach you 7 techniques. Each technique is useful in a different situation. When you know all 7, you can choose the right one during your exam and save valuable time. Let me give you a simple comparison. Imagine you are looking for your keys in your house. You would not search every single room in the same way. If you know you left them in the kitchen, you go directly there. If you are not sure, you look around the whole house quickly first. Reading a text works the same way. Sometimes you search quickly everywhere for the general idea. Sometimes you go directly to find one specific detail. Choosing the right approach saves you time and energy, both in real life and in an exam. One more thing before we start. Fast reading is not about rushing carelessly. It is about being smart with your attention. You give full attention to important parts and less attention to unimportant parts. This is the real secret behind every fast, successful reader. Part 2. Technique 1. Skimming. The first technique is called skimming. Skimming means reading very quickly just to understand the general idea of a text. You do not read every word. You look at the title, the first sentence of each paragraph, and any bold or important words. Why is skimming useful? Imagine you have a long text, and the first question is, what is this text about? You do not need to read every word to answer this question. You just need the general topic. Here is how to skim a text. First, read the title. The title often tells you the main topic. Second, read the first sentence of each paragraph. This sentence is often the main idea of that paragraph. Third, look for any names, numbers, or important words that stand out. Let's practice this idea. Imagine a text titled, "The History of Coffee." Just from the title, you already know the topic, coffee and its history. If the first paragraph starts with, "Coffee was first discovered in Ethiopia," you now know an important fact without reading every word. Skimming should take only a few seconds or 1 or 2 minutes for a longer text. Practice this technique with any text you find, a newspaper article, a website, anything. Try to understand the general topic in under 1 minute. Let's try one more example together. Imagine a text with the title, "New Rules for Public Transport." Just from this title, you already know the general topic, rules and public transport, like buses or trains. If the first paragraph starts with, "Starting next month, all passengers must show a valid ticket," you now understand an important detail without reading the entire paragraph word by word. This is the power of skimming, understanding the shape of a text quickly before deciding where to focus your attention. Here is one final tip for skimming. Try to imagine you are a bird flying high above a city. From up high, you cannot see every small detail, but you can see the general shape of the city, the roads, the big buildings, the river. Skimming works the same way with a text. You fly over it quickly and you notice its general shape before deciding where to land and look closer. Part 3. Technique 2. Scanning. The second technique is called scanning. Scanning is different from skimming. Scanning means looking for one specific piece of information, like a date, a name, or a number. Imagine the question is, in what year was the company founded? You do not need to read the whole text. You need to find one number, a year. To scan, move your eyes quickly across the text, looking only for that specific type of information. Ignore everything else. For example, if you are looking for a year, your eyes should search for 4 numbers together, like 1998 or 2005. You do not need to read the sentences around it yet. Once you find the number, then you read just that sentence carefully to make sure you understand it correctly. Scanning is extremely useful for questions that ask about specific facts, names, dates, places, numbers, or specific words. Let's practice. Imagine you are scanning a text for the word important. Your eyes move quickly down the page, not reading everything, just looking for that one word. When you find it, you stop and read that part carefully. This technique saves a lot of time, especially with long texts. Let's practice one more scanning exercise. Imagine the question is, what is the price of the ticket? Your eyes should search for a number with a currency symbol, like a dollar sign or a euro sign. You do not read the sentences before or after until you find that number. Once you find it, then, and only then, do you read carefully around it to check the full answer. Scanning feels strange at first because we are trained to read every word. But with practice, your eyes will learn to move quickly, ignoring unnecessary information and focusing only on what you need. Here is one more useful tip. Before you scan, always know exactly what you are looking for. Is it a name, a number, a place, a date? The clearer your target, the faster and more accurate your scanning will be. Part 4. Technique 3. Reading in chunks. The third technique is about how you move your eyes while reading. This technique is called reading in chunks. Many beginner readers read one word at a time. Their eyes stop on every single word. The cat is on the table. This is very slow. Fluent readers do something different. Their eyes move in small groups of words called chunks. For example, the cat is on the table. Just 2 chunks, not 6 separate words. Reading in chunks makes you faster, and it also helps you understand meaning better because you see whole ideas together, not just single words. Here is a simple way to practice. Take a sentence and divide it into small groups of 2 or 3 words. For example, my brother works in a big office. 3 chunks instead of 6 single words. Try reading this way, moving your eyes across each chunk instead of stopping on every single word. At first, this feels strange, but with practice, your eyes naturally learn to see chunks, not single words, and your reading speed increases. Here is another example to practice. Take this sentence. Every morning, she drinks a cup of tea before going to work. Instead of 6 or 7 single words, try to see it as 3 chunks. Every morning, she drinks a cup of tea, before going to work. Try this technique with a paragraph from any book or article you have. Do not worry about speed at first. Just practice seeing groups of words instead of single words. Speed will naturally improve over time. Let's try one final chunking example. Take this sentence. Because of the heavy rain, the football match was canceled yesterday. You could divide it like this. Because of the heavy rain, slash, the football match, slash, was canceled yesterday. 3 chunks, each one carrying a clear piece of meaning. Part 5. Technique 4. Guessing meaning from context. The fourth technique helps you when you find a word you do not know. This technique is called guessing meaning from context. In every exam, you will probably see some words you do not know. This is completely normal, even for advanced students. Many students panic when they see an unknown word. They stop reading and they feel confused. But there is a better way. Instead of stopping, look at the words around the unknown word. These words are called context, and they often give you clues about the meaning. For example, imagine this sentence. The weather was very cold, so she wore a thick coat to stay warm. Maybe you do not know the word thick, but look at the context. Cold weather, a coat, staying warm. From this context, you can guess that thick probably means something like heavy or warm, even without knowing the exact definition. This technique is very powerful because it allows you to continue reading without stopping at every unknown word. Remember, you do not need to understand 100% of a text to answer the questions correctly. Understanding 80 or 90% using context clues for the rest is often enough. Let's try one more example. Imagine this sentence. The lecture was so tedious that many students fell asleep. Maybe you do not know the word tedious, but the context gives a strong clue. Students fell asleep during the lecture. This suggests that tedious means something boring or not interesting. You did not need a dictionary. You used the context around the unknown word, and you understood enough to continue reading confidently. Let's try one final example together. Imagine this sentence. He was so exhausted after the long journey that he slept for 12 hours. Maybe you do not know the word exhausted, but the context is clear. A long journey, then sleeping for 12 hours. This suggests exhausted means extremely tired. The more you practice this technique, the faster your brain becomes at guessing meaning without stopping your reading flow. Part 6. Technique 5. Ignoring unnecessary details. Now, let's learn technique number 5, ignoring unnecessary details. This technique is closely connected to scanning, but it deserves its own explanation because many students find it difficult. In many texts, there is a lot of extra information, descriptions, examples, small details that are interesting but not always necessary to answer the questions. Good readers learn to recognize which parts of a text are essential and which parts they can read more quickly or even skip completely if the questions do not ask about them. For example, imagine a text about a famous scientist. The text might describe the color of the scientist's house or a small story about their childhood pet. If the questions do not ask about these details, you do not need to spend time understanding them perfectly. Here is a simple way to practice this. Before you read a text fully, look at the questions first. This tells you exactly what information is important. Then, while reading, give full attention to sentences connected to the questions and read the other sentences more quickly, just to keep the general flow of the story. This technique protects your time and energy for the parts that actually matter for your score. Part 7. Technique 6. Managing your time. The sixth technique is about managing your time during a reading exam. Time management is just as important as understanding the text itself. Many students lose points not because they do not understand English, but because they run out of time. Here is a simple strategy. Before you start reading the full text carefully, spend the first 30 seconds skimming it to understand the general topic. Then, look at the questions first. Understanding what the questions ask helps you know what information to look for while reading. After that, read the text more carefully, using scanning for specific facts and reading in chunks for speed. Finally, save a few minutes at the end to check your answers if time allows. If you find one question very difficult, do not spend too much time on it. Move to the next question and come back later if you have time. Managing your time well, combined with the other techniques, will help you feel calmer and more confident during your reading exam. Let me give you a simple example of a time plan for a 10-minute reading section. Spend the first minute skimming the text and reading the questions. Spend the next 6 minutes reading carefully, scanning for specific answers, and using context clues for unknown words. Spend the last 3 minutes checking your answers and making sure you did not miss anything important. Of course, real exams may have different time limits, but the idea stays the same. Divide your time wisely instead of spending it all on the first careful reading. Part 8. Technique 7. Common mistakes to avoid. Before we practice, let's talk about technique number 7, knowing the common mistakes so you can avoid them. Mistake number 1, reading every word at the same slow speed without adjusting your technique. Remember, different situations need different techniques. Mistake number 2, stopping completely when you see an unknown word instead of using context clues to keep moving forward. Mistake number 3, not reading the questions before reading the text. This means you read without a clear purpose, and you may need to read the text again later, wasting time. Mistake number 4, spending too much time on one difficult question and running out of time for easier questions later in the exam. Mistake number 5, not checking answers at the end, even when there is extra time available. Now that you know these common mistakes, you can watch out for them during your own practice and during your real exam. Avoiding these mistakes is sometimes just as powerful as learning a brand new technique. Part 9. Practice moment. Choosing the right technique. Now, let's do a short practice together. I will describe a short situation. Try to think about which technique you would use. Situation 1. You need to find the name of a city in a long text. Which technique? Scanning. You are looking for a specific piece of information. Situation 2. You want to understand the general topic of a text quickly. Which technique? Skimming. You need the general idea. Situation 3. You see a word you do not know in the middle of a sentence. Which technique? Guessing meaning from context. Situation 4. You are reading slowly, word by word, and you want to become faster. Which technique? Reading in chunks. Very good. You now know when to use each technique depending on the situation. Let's do 3 more situations. Situation 5. You have only 2 minutes left and 3 questions remaining. Which approach? Good time management. Quickly scan for the easiest answers first and do not spend too much time on one difficult question. Situation 6. You finished reading and you have a little extra time. Which approach? Use that time to check your answers carefully, making sure each one matches what the text actually says. Situation 7. The text describes a long, detailed story about someone's childhood, but the questions only ask about their job today. Which approach? Ignoring unnecessary details. Read the childhood story quickly and focus your attention on the part about their current job. Excellent. Combining all 7 techniques plus good time management will make you a much stronger reader during exams. Part 10. Practice moment. A short reading exercise. Now, let's try a slightly longer practice exercise together. I will read a very short text. Try to use skimming first, just to catch the general idea. Here is the text. Maria works in a small bakery in the center of town. Every morning she wakes up at 5 o'clock. She prepares fresh bread, cakes, and pastries. The bakery opens at 7 o'clock and closes at 6 in the evening. Many customers visit every day because the bread is always fresh and delicious. Now, let's ask ourselves a skimming question. What is this text generally about? The answer: a woman named Maria who works in a bakery. Now, let's practice scanning. What time does the bakery open? If you scanned correctly, you found the answer: 7 o'clock. Let's practice context guessing. The word pastries appears in the text. Even if you do not know this word exactly, the context tells you it is something related to bread and cakes, probably a type of baked food. Very good. You just practiced 3 techniques together on one small text, exactly like you would during a real exam. Part 11. Summary. Let's summarize everything we learned today. Technique 1. Skimming, reading quickly for the general idea. Technique 2. Scanning, looking for specific information like names or numbers. Technique 3. Reading in chunks, moving your eyes across small groups of words, not single words. Technique 4. Guessing meaning from context, using surrounding words to understand unknown words. Technique 5. Ignoring unnecessary details, giving less attention to information that is not connected to the questions. Technique 6. Managing your time, skimming first, checking the questions, then reading carefully and saving time to check your answers. Technique 7. Knowing common mistakes and actively avoiding them during your reading. These 7 techniques work together. Use skimming to understand the topic, scanning to find specific facts, chunking to read faster, context clues for unknown words, and good time management to stay calm and organized. Part 12. Final motivation. Before we close today's episode, I want to leave you with one final thought. Reading well is a skill, just like speaking or listening. Nobody becomes a fast, confident reader overnight. But if you practice a little every day using these 7 techniques, you will notice real progress within just a few weeks. Remember, reading fast does not mean reading carelessly. It means reading smart, choosing the right technique for the right moment. Practice these techniques with any text you find, articles, books, even social media posts. The more you practice, the more natural these techniques will become. Be patient with yourself, celebrate small improvements, and keep practicing consistently. Part 13. Closing. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Whofiles. I hope these 7 techniques help you feel more confident and prepared for your next reading exam. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Whofiles for new episodes every week covering listening, reading, speaking, and vocabulary for your exams. Keep practicing, keep learning, and I will see you in the next episode. This is Whofiles, saying goodbye.